This is the Dog Nation Postgame Show, live from the UGA bookstore in Athens. Brought to you by Kroger, R.S. Andrews, Jittery Joe's Coffee, Sir Gerald's, J. Stein Law Firm, and the UGA bookstore. Here's your host, Brandon Adams.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into our Dog Nation postgame show. We're live here at the UGA bookstore where Georgia has gotten a 51-13 win against the Kentucky Wildcats, and a lot to like if you're a Georgia fan here today. Dogs dominant on the offensive side. So much of the credit for that going to go to Carson Beck for what he was able to do. And then Georgia coasting to the easy victory, the dominant victory that Georgia fans have been hoping for quite some time. There is a lot to say, a lot to unpack about this. We're going to celebrate all of those strong moments, and we're going to try our best to forget about what also happened with the Atlanta Braves tonight there as well. So perhaps a little good news for Georgia gives us a chance to do that. So it's going to be me. It'll be Jeff Sintel joining us here in a little bit, but we also want it to be you there as well. So if you're watching on any of our video comment sections, YouTube or Facebook or DogNation.com, there'll be a link for you to join the show and for you to be a part of the conversation. And if you're on your way out of Sanford Stadium before you go home, stop by here to the UGA bookstore. You can do some shopping, get yourself some good-looking Georgia gear, just like the Georgia shirt I'm wearing today, the Peter Millar, kind of the old dog face logo, which I love. We got that here at the UGA bookstore a couple of weeks ago. You can get stocked up and you can get ready to go for the stretch run this season right here at the UGA bookstore. But also, come up here and see us at the second floor of the UGA bookstore, and you can share your thoughts about what you just saw take place inside Sanford Stadium a moment ago. So before you leave the game, make this part of your ritual. Come over here and say hello to me. Come over here and be a part of the show. When you get here, we'll bring you right up here. We'll give you a chance to have a few words being said. In fact, we'd love to have you on the show if you want to come over here and be a part of the conversation. Some of our regulars, longtime friends are here right now. So we'll give you a chance to do that. We'll hear from you on Zoom. We'll read some of the old-fashioned comments there as well. We would love to have you on the show. Sure enough, you want to come be on? Come on over here. One of our good friends, a longtime part of our Dog Nation family here, and this is the kind of folks we like to see on these game days. Folks we've been – yeah, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Hey, tell everybody who doesn't know you who you are.
Army Dog Charlie.
This is Army Dog Charlie right here, one of the great parts of our Dog Nation comment section. And, Charlie, I think we're going to see a lot of dog fans smiling today and feeling really good about what we just saw. So you were there. What was your reaction to what you saw inside the Sanford Stadium?
I was super happy, B.A. So they hyped up Mississippi State a few years ago, then Arkansas, then last year University of Tennessee. This year was UK, and we were on upset alert, and we just blasted their butt.
We sure did, and it was a great thing to be able to see. And how much did you love seeing Carson Beck kind of come out and set the tone? Much faster start offensively. And for Beck, who I think week after week after week has been winning those Georgia fans over, taking another step to kind of do that again here today. How much fun did you have with Carson Beck today?
Man, he played awesome. I think people don't give enough credit to him or the offensive plan that Bobo's putting in place. They're playing lights out.
Now, the word on the street is, I know we talked about this in our YouTube comment section on Dog Nation Daily this week, get a big tailgate today. One of these days I'm going to get out there and see it. How was the pregame tailgate for the all-day tailgate before the night game? Obviously, this is the kind of thing that Georgia fans live for and love this time of year. How was that pregame tailgate here today?
It was awesome, B.A. You were supposed to come by, but look, we had live music. We had 150 people probably at the tailgate.
Listen, one of these days I'm going to get here early enough to be there and be a part of that. Army Dog Charlie, thanks for coming by here. We love your commentary. We appreciate you being a part of Dog Nation. Hope you guys have a great night celebrating this big Georgia win.
Thanks for having me, B.A.
Absolutely.
Go Dogs.
Good stuff there from Army Dog Charlie. Folks having a good time here. A lot of smiles on faces, a lot of happy people as Georgia gets a win today over Kentucky, 51-13. Obviously, a lot of the conversation you're going to center around Carson Beck, as you would imagine that it would. And if you want to get on and do just like Charlie just did and have your thoughts here, if you weren't live at the game but you want to join us via Zoom, you certainly have a chance to do that here this evening there as well. And as we talk about what Carson Beck was able to do, what we'll also talk about is the number of guys that Beck was able to throw to. We've obviously been having fun on Dog Nation Daily the last few days with the idea of Brocktober. Brock's day was amazing. Capped off with a touchdown, over 100 yards receiving for the third consecutive game. Right now, I think you have to say that Brock Bowers is very real. This is not just, loudmouth BA exaggerating this for the fun of it. This right now is a very real narrative and a real story that Brock Bowers is absolutely in the thick of the Heisman Trophy conversation. You've seen some of that reflected by how well he's played, the fact that it's getting more national attention, that's being noticed by more folks. I think you're going to see more of that, but it wasn't just Brock Bowers who caught the football tonight. Bowers certainly did it plenty, but there were other guys heavily involved too, and you love to see that. We're going to talk about that throughout the evening. But we're also going to give you a chance to weigh in, share your thoughts there as well. We just heard from our buddy Army Dog Charlie, another one of our regulars, a guy that always has a lot of great things to say. Frank Montanaro. Frank, you're next up here on the Dog Nation Postgame Show. We're live at the UGA bookstore. Georgia gets a dominant win, the kind of win that Georgia fans have been craving now for quite some time. What did you think about what you saw, Frank?
Yes, sir. Thanks, BA, for having me on again. But, yeah, exactly. Like I said last week, not really worried. Just a few things, obviously, we needed to clean up. But I really think we saw a coming out party for Carson Beck tonight. He looked laser focused. You don't like the one interception, but yeah, obviously things happen. But other than that, again, laser focused. He was locked in. Brock Bowers, another amazing game. But you got Rosemy, Jack Saint showing up big. You got Ra Thomas showing up huge. I mean, the catch for the touchdown with the 1 foot in, I mean, that was awesome. You got Dejon Edwards getting 54 yards, 13, the longest one, 9 carries. Kendall Milton, 47 yards. Vandegrift coming in, a couple big carries, touchdown pass. That was awesome at the end to see as well. Defense, again, played great. The turnover you don't like. And then the roughing the passer call that really led to the touchdown. That was just horrendous. But the defense, again, they played awesome. We were ready for this game. Keep bringing it on. Go Dogs.
Frank, great call, and I appreciate you being here. And you're right. First of all, we're going to talk a lot about the Georgia offense because they found a way to score 50-plus points tonight. But this was that bounce-back game from the Georgia defense that everybody also wanted to see there, too. And a lot had been said, rightly so, about Ray Davis, the Kentucky running back who had 280 yards rushing last week against Florida. Obviously, Georgia appeared to be vulnerable with its rushing defense after what happened a week ago against Auburn. And yet that Georgia defense answered the challenge here tonight, not just with limiting Ray Davis, but also really getting after Leary, the Kentucky quarterback, there as well. We saw Jamon Dumas-Johnson, who has drawn the ire of some Georgia fans as of late. Rightly or wrongly, I guess that's to be determined and to be debated, but nonetheless, he gets in there as a part of a sack, also had a half a sack on a situation where he and Kamari Laster both came in and got to the quarterback there. So Georgia, in addition to limiting what Kentucky did on the ground, they also did a great job of getting after Leary today, and that aggressive pass rush that shows up for Georgia in these big SEC games, that showed up again here tonight there as well. And as Frank also mentioned, the way in which Georgia spread around the football. Brock Bowers tonight, he did what he did. But in addition to that, Marcus Rosemy-Jackson, I think, gave you an indication that he's going to be one of this team's trusted weapons here in the second half of the regular season, that he's got some SEC experience, and he's going to use that experience to great effect. Found a way to get himself open tonight, found a way to make some big catches for Georgia tonight, and that was great to see. In addition to that, Ra Thomas, and I think I've said this now a few times, obviously I was very happy that when Georgia brought in Ra, anytime you have a chance to bring in a guy that's got SEC experience, of course that's what you want to do. If you've got a spot available, bringing in a guy who's done it at the SEC level, of course that's valuable. But I have to say that I think I greatly underrated what Ra Thomas could be for this Georgia offense. And to me, there's a certain, caricature I probably would have drawn about a wide receiver who played in the Mike Leach offense. It's a specific kind of offense, a specific kind of thing. And sometimes you think about that being a little bit more finesse-oriented, perhaps. Some of those receivers that Leach has had over the years, perhaps not being the biggest receivers necessarily. But the athleticism and really the size that Ra is able to play with, y'all, that's the kind of thing that I think that Georgia is really going to use here in the second half. And if you haven't gotten a chance to, go back and rewatch Ra's touchdown near the beginning of the game. Obviously, you had to have the officials come help you out there and get that call to stand, or get that call, overturned, is the right way to say that. But he goes up, high points that football, an incredible leap to bring that home. This was a tremendous play. So last week, Georgia really had to have Brock Bowers to score enough points to walk out of Jordan-Hare Stadium a winner. Tonight it was Brock Bowers plus all of the other components of this Georgia offense, including a terrific rushing attack as well with the return of Kendall Milton. We'll talk more about that here coming up in just a little bit too. But for now, back to the phones we go. Cassie Turner, you're next up on our Dog Nation postgame show here live at the UGA bookstore. Cassie, this was a lot of fun to watch tonight. What did you think about those Dogs hanging a big number on Kentucky?
I thought that this was the team that we've been wanting this entire time. This was the team that we expected. I think the offense did great. I think the defense did great. Obviously, a little misstep here and there that, can be easily corrected, but this was the team that I've been looking for. And I just want to mention, you said something about Ra Thomas's first touchdown. The awareness of where the sideline is for all of these players is insanely good. I don't know how much they practice on that, but it has to be a lot because they somehow manage to figure it out and manage to stay just on the edge when they have to.
Yeah, Cassie, I think that's a really good point. You kind of see that at all levels now where the receivers, especially here at Georgia, are so aware of where the sideline is, where the out-of-bounds line is, and the ability to get the feet down. Obviously, at this level, it's just the 1 foot that's needed to get down. But as you said, the field awareness and all that is really pretty amazing, and that's really kind of one of the reasons why you like a player like Ra who's got that SEC experience. And we've been kind of saying this now for a while, that Georgia was going to lean on these experienced guys. Ra was Mississippi State's leading receiver last year. Dominic Lovett was Missouri's leading receiver last year. And Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint was among the leading returning receivers for Georgia. And really, if you want to compare him to the rest of the SEC, there weren't tons of guys who brought back more receiving yards than what Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint brought back to Georgia here this year. Obviously, Ladd McConkey's a part of that too. But Ladd right now continuing to work his way back from injury. Georgia really didn't need as much from him. And so I think you're seeing the buildup of what the nucleus is going to be for Georgia when it wants to move the ball through the air. And that's not meant to be a disrespect to Arian Smith or C.J. Smith or Jackson Meeks or any of the other potential names that I could have mentioned. What it really is more of a statement about what Georgia has with the veteran presence that it has there at the wide receiver position. A lot to like about that here this evening. Isha, you're next up here on our Dog Nation postgame show. Isha, appreciate you being here. We're live at the UGA bookstore. How about them Dogs? Big win tonight. What did you think about it?
Well, hey, hello everybody. I beat Ryan on here, so usually I like to go after Ryan. But my biggest thing was way to play a complete Georgia Bulldogs football game. It's a complete game, 4 quarters of playing football. No matter what it is, they won in all phases of the game. Special teams did their thing, and I can say now, BA, I'm a little bit more comfortable with the kicker because I did not have no faith in him before, at least 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, last week he did okay. I started saying his kicks a little cleaner. But, starting to look cleaner, and they were clean today. Now, you might make me shake a little bit in some situations, but he got my confidence today in the kicks he made. Defensively, we had some breakdowns here and there. I think we got hosed on a call by, who was it? 97, I can't think his name. But we got a hose on that personal foul, which wasn't. It was weak. But other than that,
Zion Love right there.
That pretty much gave them a touchdown after that. But other than that, I'm pleased with the way the offense went. You can't be nothing but ecstatic about how the game started and pretty much how it ended. A lot of people were talking about the rushing. It kind of pissed me off about that because. Yes, you had a lot of quarterback reads last week where the quarterback took off for 60, 70 yards and we gave up over 200 or 300 yards or whatever rushing. And because of the rushing that Kentucky did last week against Florida, that made it a big game. So everybody thought that they would do that against us. I knew they wouldn't because traditional rushers have a hard time against us, even with the new defense. So I'm pleased overall with where everything went. I wasn't really worried about the game at all. even with all that talking he was saying, I just was waiting to see what I wanted to see the results of what happened during the game. That was the only thing I wanted to see.
Hey, Isha, great phone call as always. I certainly appreciate that. I think you bring up a lot of good points. First of all, the what was called a roughing the passer, I said Zion Logue, maybe it was Warren Brinson who was in on that, but that was an awful call, an absolutely awful call, and it really doesn't impact Georgia in terms of the outcome of this game, but for a lot of us who've loved football, when you see this, and it's probably worse at the NFL level right now than it is the college level, this actually kind of reminded me of some of those awful roughing the passer calls we see on a regular basis in the NFL right now. It's making the game, I think, unrecognizable. So I heard some chatter that the TV broadcast kind of panned that. I guess Matt Austin, who's the sort of rules expert in the booth, apparently he disagreed with that call, which at least is kind of bringing some sanity back into this, at least a little bit, because that's not the kind of thing that you want, not because it hurts Georgia tonight. Georgia won easily, but because I think it hurts all of us who love football. We see defensive players basically put in handcuffs and not able to go out there and do anything. That is incredibly frustrating. So I think you're absolutely right about that. You also mentioned the rushing game a little bit too, and that's the other thing about tonight's game that I don't think should get lost. Clearly, there's a lot to like about what Carson Beck did through the air, but the fact that you got Kendall Milton back healthy and involved tonight, and really, the overall, I think, total rushing yards, I'm not sure what that's going to end up looking like for Georgia, somewhere in the 150 range or something along those lines. I've got the stats pulled up here. Let me see if I can pull them up. What the total rushing number is going to look like. But what you're really going to love is the per carry average for both Edwards and Milton. So Edwards' average is 6 yards per carry tonight. Yeah, so Georgia goes 173 in total. That is certainly not a bad mark, but it's really more that yards per carry average that you really like. On 9 carries, Dejon Edwards averaged 6 yards a tote. On 8 carries, Kendall Milton averaged 5.9 yards per carry there. That's getting you where you want to be. And rightly so, people are going to pay a lot of attention to what Carson Beck did through the air tonight. Of course, that's the case. Georgia fans walking by here at the UGA bookstore and having a really good time. Of course, you're going to pay a lot of attention to what Carson Beck did, and you should. We're going to be celebrating Beck all night long here. But along the way to making Georgia, what was it Cassie Turner said a little earlier when she joined us, that, hey, this is the Georgia team we've been waiting to see. Part of what made Georgia tonight was they kind of got back to asserting itself on the offensive line of scrimmage and opening up a lot for the Georgia rushing attack there. That's part of what made tonight fun for Georgia, is the presence of Milton, giving him the kind of change of pace back to go along with what we've been seeing from Dejon Edwards. That was a big step in towards making Georgia what it was here tonight. So, fun conversation. A lot of great calls continue to roll in. If you're watching Facebook, YouTube, DogNation.com, you will see a link. You can click on the link. You can be a part of the show, and we'll continue kind of stream of consciousness here to sort of talk through everything that we saw from tonight's game. The other thing, before we go back to phones, I want to mention this. Isha also brought up Peyton Woodring, the kicker. And do not let this get obscured here either. By my count, I think Woodring's made 5 straight field goals. Is that right? 5 straight for him. 3 tonight, 2 last week. So you're talking about a guy that I think has kind of rebooted his season here a little bit. And obviously you love touchdowns. You don't want to settle for field goals. But seeing Woodring very quietly seem to find it again, probably validating what he's been doing at practice, that is also a very big positive for tonight's game there as well. We heard Isha call out Ryan Walker a little earlier, saying he beat him onto the air tonight. So let's give Ryan Walker, who wants to speak now and talk some Georgia football, a chance to join us. Ryan, what did you think this Georgia win over Kentucky here tonight?
Well, what's going on, everybody? It's the first time for everything. So he beat me on tonight. It's all good. It's still dog love. Don't worry, Braves fans. We gonna bounce back. We took a loss to Philly tonight. It's all good. We'll bounce back. But speaking of players bouncing back, you got to give it to this defense tonight. We've only given up 2 touchdowns tonight. Got 3 sacks. Jalen Walker, obvious. Pops Dumas Johnson came in there and did his thing. Outside of that, Carson Beck. I mean, do we have anybody else that's gonna say he needs to be on the bench? Because let's be real. Tonight, Chef Kirby cooked up a 50-piece wing with extra sauce, no napkins, and he slid that one, which is your field goal, that one piece that's like a lemon pepper wing. He slid that to the side for the detractors and whatnot. So we kept it messy for those guys. But let's keep it real. Got to give Brock Bowers a shout-out for moving into second place with touchdowns. Terrence Edwards, I know you're watching. The boy is 6 touchdowns away from breaking your record. and he's closer to getting that 1,000 yards. So, you got to make space for the young buck. But let's be real. Carson Beck did his thing tonight. He had his coming out party tonight. This is what Mike Griffiths talked about when he said, when are we going to have a game where we would have had 4 or 5 touchdowns? Tonight he would have had 5 touchdowns, but, everybody's human. I'm not going to get on Brock Bowers for dropping that one that was in his hands because, hey, he did his thing. But the guy that I've spoken candidly of for years since he's been on campus has been Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I said he was going to be the key to this Georgia offense that was going to balance everything out for Bowers and also Lad McConkey. Look at it. A lot of people laugh at me when I compared him to Michael Irvin, but let's just be honest. St. Thomas Aquinas kid, same body structure, strong hands, can run away from guys, and he's fearless with going up in the air and going across the middle. And I think he had his coming out party tonight, 99 yards tonight with 4 receptions. He did his thing tonight, BA. And honestly, I think if we keep on the trajectory that we're on right now, I really believe that a lot of people now are sitting looking like, I think Georgia was just playing possum. And I think we might have been sandbagging a little bit because we didn't want to give anybody anything. But I think our toughest test is going to be against that Missouri front 7. They lost today, but we all know that they have good pass rushers, and we have to go ahead and beat them like a drum like we beat these guys like they owed us money tonight. So this is all I got for you tonight. Great win. Let's keep the momentum going, and I'm glad to see that Powers is going to be fine injury-wise, and also Cedric Von Prine Granger is not hurt too bad. Hopefully just a couple of bumps and bruises, and we do our thing coming up next week against Vandy.
Ryan, great call. Appreciate that. I agree with so much what you said. Like you said, looks like good injury news. And a couple of guys, Brock Bowers briefly left. That seems okay. Cedric Von Prine Granger, he briefly leaves this game too, but it seems like he's going to be okay there as well. And I think you have to say it looked like Georgia perhaps did send a message, either causing folks to forget about what Georgia looked like through the first handful of games this season, or perhaps, as Ryan said, indicating that Georgia may have been sandbagging the entire time. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's bring in a guy here who has been a big part of Dog Nation events over the years. We haven't seen him, though, here in Athens, I don't think, in a couple of years. Mick, step on in here so folks can see you here. Tell folks who you are and tell folks how it felt to kind of be back here in Athens again today.
Well, it's been a kind of a tough year and a half with the pandemic, and then the hurricane. Ian really hit us. Lost a couple windows, but I've been watching every game. But until tonight, they finally got up to a great start. The Marcus touch.
Rosemy-Jacksaint,
Yeah, so it was tremendous.
Absolutely was. So Mick's been coming to Dog Nation events for a long time here and back in Athens, as he said, for the first time in a little while because of some of the things that's been going on down there in Florida where he lives. How much fun has it been to watch these Georgia last 2 national championships, and how much fun was it tonight to see a team that really looked like it belonged right there alongside those national championship teams?
I did get up for the celebration. I came up for it, and actually I caught the center coming off and I said, I told him, I said, I know you're ready for the pros, but we really need you to come back. He didn't didn't say anything. He hadn't let out either way.
But when he announced the decision to come back, obviously a lot of Georgia fans were happy to have him back, right?
Oh, tremendous. I mean, he just stabilizes that offensive line.
Well, speaking about being happy to have somebody back, we're happy to have you back here between the hedges today. Mick, thanks for coming by and seeing us. I sure will. Longtime friends of ours here at Dog Nation. We always have that on these Dog Nation post-game shows, a chance to see folks, say hello to folks, and have a good time. In fact, we'll keep it going here right now. And if you're here live and you want to be on the show, we'll give you a chance to come on by and be a part of the conversation. We'll have a great time with that. So we'll take your live commentary here at the UGA bookstore. We'll also continue to take your comments there via Zoom. If you want to click that link on any of the video chats you may be watching on, Bryce Dixon. Bryce, you're next up here on the Dog Nation postgame.
What's going on, BA?
Dogs, big win for. Hey, yeah. Bryce, how are you?
Hey, man, I'm good. It was a great game. I'm telling you what, it was an awesome game. I can say that we kind of looked like we did when we played TCU. The defense had an overall pretty good game. The offensive line was doing pretty good, and Beck had a hell of a game. I think if Kirby wouldn't have took him out of the fourth quarter, I think he would have probably broke some records.
No, Bryce, I think he absolutely had a chance to do that for sure. Break some records, and certainly I think letting people know here right now that this is a quarterback that you can more than depend on. And honestly, and we do this show each and every week, and I know, Bryce, you've been a part of our conversations for a while, and other folks are here there as well, that Georgia fans sometimes can be a little hard to win over because the standard that Georgia fans hold their team to is a national championship standard. That's what we've seen Georgia doing here these last couple of years. But Georgia fans have been pretty complimentary of Beck, and I take that to mean something. I take that to mean that week by week by week, especially second half of South Carolina, second half of Auburn, that at that point, Beck's been kind of winning some people over with his play here, and tonight he was able to put it together for the full game the way we had seen him doing for partial games there as well. So you love to see that. It was a big, big performance for Carson Beck, a big part of a Georgia win tonight against Kentucky, and your conversations are going to be rolling on here. We'll take you live here if you want to be a part of the show. We'll also take you via Zoom there as well. We got a caller ready to go here right now. Is it Bramlett? Is that the name that I have here? Maybe I'm misreading this off my phone screen here, but our next caller, go ahead and pop on and go live here on our Dog Nation postgame show live from the UGA bookstore. Go ahead and give us your thoughts here about these Georgia Bulldogs.
What's up, BA?
Dale. Hey, Dale, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. And was this? I mean, this was a great win, man, and was a great win for Georgia. I think we can finally, stop saying that we've been eating cupcakes. Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
I mean, Carson Beck, 300? What was it? 389 yards.
An amazing performance.
Amazing performance.
What else did you like about
the offensive
tonight?
line looks like they come to together a little bit better in this game, and we was waiting for this performance, wasn't we?
We absolutely were, and I appreciate that phone call. We absolutely were. Georgia fans have been waiting to see this team kind of put it together, both sides of the ball, for all four quarters. Tonight they were doing that, and it probably came at a good time, especially when you see the landscape shifting around the rest of the SEC. Alabama wins at Texas A&M. That's going to give them a lot of chatter here right now. And Georgia reminded folks today that no matter who else you may choose to talk about, Georgia going to force folks to be talking about them here too because, as Dale said, Georgia finds a way to put that full performance here together. We got some young fans here live at the UGA bookstore. They want to weigh in there as well. Tell us what your name is.
Dylan.
Dylan, good to have you here. What's your name?
Gracie.
Gracie, what's your name?
Ashley.
All right, Ashley, what'd you think about the game here tonight?
I thought it was better, way better than it has been. Huge Georgia fan. It's great.
Yeah, it feels good to see Georgia come out and play a full game tonight, did it not?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
You guys get to come to a lot of games?
This is our first one.
Very first game ever. So did you like the night game? Did you like the lights? Did you like all that?
Yeah, it was awesome.
So what's your number one memory from what you saw tonight?
I really liked watching Brock Bowers.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you coming about being part of the show, and we like Brock Bowers there as well, having fun with him. Guys, thanks for being here. Appreciate that. As we said earlier, young fans, older fans, everybody in between, everybody likes what Brock Bowers is doing here right now because this is more than just a good player having a good season. This is an all-time great player having perhaps a special season. And for now, I think you have to say this puts him very much in the thick of the Heisman Trophy conversation. And listen, for a long time, we were just sort of hoping a Georgia player might become a Heisman finalist. That's something that Georgia, until last year, had not had since 1992. Well, last year, Stetson kind of kicked that door in. I think now it's appropriate to have a different kind of conversation as it relates to Brock. Perhaps the idea that he could actually win the award. I think you have to look at that as a very real thing, potentially, here right now. Anthony White, you're next up here in our Dog Nation postgame show live from the UGA bookstore. Anthony, we appreciate you taking the time to join us. What did you think about UGA here tonight?
Hello, BA. Great game by the Dogs tonight. Was very impressed with the offense. I think a lot of Georgia fans owe Carson Beck and Mike Bobo apologies. They've been talking a lot of trash last couple weeks, but they did their thing tonight. And the defense, best game the defense played all year. Still want to see the pass rush get better, but we got a couple sacks, which is good. So, all in all, great game, and, hey, go Dogs.
Go Dogs right back at you, and I agree with that. We've given Carson Beck a lot of credit tonight, but the thing that Beck was doing was acting as the architect or the better analogy might be the driver in a car that was built by Mike Bobo. Bobo's game plan tonight was outstanding. And they were so creative in how they were, involving guys earlier in the game, kind of getting those quick hitter throws, softening up the defense from Kentucky and setting up the big plays. And then when they started coming in a huge way. We said this on Dog Nation Daily on Friday that part of the challenge for Georgia, and we made the comparison to like the Michigan Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl game from a couple years ago. Part of the challenge for Georgia was going to be, how do you keep getting the ball to your best player when you know and everybody else knows in the stadium that's where it's going to go? How do you keep doing that? Well, tonight Georgia was absolutely able to do that, and you've got to give Mike Bobo some of the credit for that. 132 yards for Bowers in a game in which everybody's kind of keying on trying to stop him and take him away right there. So good conversation continues. We'll keep it going here. Back to the phones we go. Waylon's next up. Got a good-looking UGA Playmakers poster behind him. Obviously, a lot of plays being made for these dogs here tonight. Waylon, UGA fans are in a very good mood. What did you think about this Georgia win over Kentucky?
BA, this whole season, I've equated it to when you were driving a car. When you were 14 years old, your dad took you down a dirt road. When you turned 15, he took you on the hard road. When you turned 16, you went on a road trip with the DMV and got your license, and your parents cut you loose. Your dad looked at your mom and said, he's ready to drive. And that's how this game went for me.
Yep.
Last week was our DMV road test. And that's how I view this whole season. We had a new squad come in. These guys are young. It's baby steps. And now they're ready to drive. And I think that's what you saw.
I love the analogy. I think it. No, I love the analogy. I think it's a great comparison, and it does seem like this team has kind of grown up before our eyes here a little bit over the course of the last couple of weeks. And the way you described that, I think, is just about perfect, because there was certainly a level of comfort that Carson Beck showed tonight. And we know the position of quarterback is just different than others, right? We know that there's a little bit of a feel to that kind of permeates the rest of the team. And I do think a lot of the rest of these Georgia players fed off that confidence that Beck had here tonight. I agree with that, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. If you're here and you want to be a part of the show, you can come on over and be a part of the conversation if you'd like to be. We got a lot of folks hanging out watching with us, so if you want to be a part of that, we'll give you a chance to. We'll also celebrate and give you our player of the game here coming up in a moment. You can probably guess who that might be. We'll give you a chance to share that. Would you like to be on? Come on over if you want to be. Pop on over here and talk some Georgia football with us here this evening. We try to be interactive, right? You can join us via Zoom. You can join us live here in person, especially if you got the Bowers jersey on with the Dooley, in memory of Vince Dooley, the 2023 national championship game. Of course, we got to give you a chance to speak about some Georgia football. So, dominant win. First of all, tell us your name.
Jared.
Hey, Jared, we're glad to have you here. And what did you think about what Georgia was able to do tonight?
I think it's a big statement, especially coming off the first few games we had at the beginning of the season. It's kind of a worrisome for the entire, system that everybody's used to seeing the last 2 years, especially the dominant defense we had and the explosive offense, especially that establishment we had. Brock Bowers he's been getting involved a lot in the last 2 weeks, and that run game picked it up. Offensive line looked great. Defense on point. I mean, couldn't ask for any more than that, and big dominant victory. Well,
I think you're bringing up a good point, too, because as you might imagine, a lot of our callers and folks who are talking here tonight are talking a lot about what the offense did. You score 50 points. Brock Bowers has another huge game. Carson Beck has a huge game. But quietly, for a Georgia defense that had some questions asked about it after it gave up more than 200 yards on the ground last week against Auburn, their performance in all of this should not be overlooked, right? Because they kind of reminded you tonight, I think, of what they can still be here this season.
That's a tough house to play in. I mean, Auburn's always been a great rival. It's deep history there. So I mean, it's going in a place like that is something you got to really watch out for. You can't second guess deep rivalry like that. It's always going to be tough.
Jerry, great commentary. Appreciate you coming over here. I love the Bowers jersey. It looks great. Would you like to be on the show?
I'll try it out, man.
All right, pop on over here. Tell us your name first of all.
Chaz.
Chaz, we're glad you're here. Chaz, almost like Chaz Chambliss, who, by the way, Chaz Chambliss played a very good game for Georgia here tonight. Chaz, what did you think about what you saw from Georgia here this evening?
I get a lot of people talking to me about offensive struggles and stuff like that, and I kept telling everybody, you got to give them time. It's a completely different not completely different team, but it's a way different team than it was last year, and it takes some time to get together, and I think they're doing an awesome job.
No, I think that's exactly right. Where do you think this team now goes from here? You got Vanderbilt on the road next week. A couple weeks after that, you got Florida. How much more confident are you now about what's going to happen in the upcoming weeks based on the fact that Georgia finally put together that four-quarter, both sides of the ball, dominant win? How much more confidence does that give you for the rest of the run here?
I've noticed that we're doing a lot better in the second half of the game for so far this year. You get your complete game today. You got your road win in the SEC.
That's right.
I'm super confident in them.
It's almost like they're checking off every box here right now. Chaz, that's a great conversation. Appreciate you being a part of that. If we got folks who want to be a part of the show, we'll give you a chance to do that here this evening. Or if you just want to hang out and watch the show, that's more than fine, too. We're going to have a good time with that one way or another. We're also going to hear from Jeff Sintel here coming up in just a moment, too. Let me say this here real quick, because I briefly mentioned this earlier. I want to make sure we go back and mention this again. In line with the conversation about what the Georgia defense was able to do, and the fact this Georgia defense tonight was also a part of the message that was sent, not just the big performance offensively, but the Georgia defense, what they're able to do there as well. I think the guy that really factored into that with a couple of big plays on the quarterback was Jamon Dumas-Johnson. And JDJ, as many of you are aware of, has had a lot of conversation around him here this season. Fans have kind of put him in a spotlight, perhaps fairly, perhaps unfairly, rightly, wrongly. That's to be decided, as the season, I guess, plays out here. But tonight, I thought number 10 on defense kind of reasserted himself. Sack and a half, really in on 2 sacks. One of those he'll share with Kamari Laster. Great to see Jamon Dumas-Johnson getting a chance to kind of be a part of that and perhaps resetting his I don't want to say image, but that's the wrong way to say it, but sort of resetting the narrative around him with UGA fans here right now. So we'll continue to take your conversations and your input into our discussion here tonight. It's Jeff Sintel coming up in a little bit there too. While I have a moment, let's also take some time to give you our player of the game here, presented by the J. Stein Law Firm, and I'm guessing that we're going to say it's Carson Beck here tonight, the player of the game. The overall numbers for Beck are unbelievable. How about 28 of 35 for 389 yards, 4 touchdowns here this evening. Very deserving for Beck of the player of the game presented by the J. Stein Law Firm. Did have 1 pick, and I want to make a quick point about that pick here in just a moment. But first, let me just continue to offer congratulations to him and remind you that J. Stein Law Firm, obviously a big part of our Dog Nation game day coverage, including here on the Postgame Show there as well. And that's a name for you to remember if you've been hurt or injured in an accident or someone you know and love has been there as well. When that happens to you, you want the compensation you deserve for what you've gone through. And that's what the J. Stein Law Firm can be incredibly valuable for you, because not only is Josh Stein what we call a double dog, a 2-time graduate of the University of Georgia, including UGA's law school, he's also a very hard-working attorney with a team of folks working there as well that give you the kind of personal attention you deserve for your case. Some of these larger-than-life personal injury firms, perhaps to them, you're nothing but a file number and a case number, and you're sort of stuck in a drawer somewhere, and you're not getting any personal attention. But with the Josh Stein, the J. Stein Law Firm, our friends Josh Stein, that's not going to be the case. You're going to get that small, firm attention, that personal care that you deserve, because if you've been hurt, that's what you need to kind of make you right again in what can be one of the most challenging scenarios you can possibly go through. So let me give you the website to go to here. It's jsteinlawfirm.com. That's jsteinlawfirm.com. That'll get you in touch with Josh Stein and the J. Stein Law Firm, doing important work for you if you've been injured in an accident or some sort of issue like that where compensation is owed to you. Our friends at the J. Stein Law Firm can help you get that. So find them online today, jsteinlawfirm.com. Okay, point to make here on the Carson Beck interception, because the overall chatter about this is, Beck had been just about perfect, and perhaps he got a little too, a little too much swagger there for a moment and forced the ball into a harm's way in what turned out to be an interception. And I realize this puts me at odds with some of y'all, and what I'm about to say is going to sound maybe not like what you're used to hearing, but honestly, I'm not going to make a big deal about Carson Beck throwing an interception there in that spot, because ultimately what I think can plague football teams too much is, frankly, at times being too careful. I mean, watch the way that Texas A&M plays today against Alabama. Loud crowd, home stadium, and ultimately Texas A&M just kind of gave that game away against the Crimson Tide today, in part because of the fact that Jimbo Fisher just doesn't take any chances. He just doesn't ever force the issue, push the envelope. He doesn't do that, doesn't roll the dice, to mix a million metaphors, just doesn't do that. And so in the case of Carson Beck, or any quarterback that might be, signal caller for Georgia, or any quarterback for any other team, there's this thought here of, if you say, I'm going to step out on a field and step out in a game, and the main thing I'm going to try to do is avoid turnovers. Honestly, you could play turnover free, but you may still not make the kind of plays that give you a chance to really win a game. You're not going to make the kind of plays that give you a chance to really put pressure on the opposing defense. So I can live with an interception from Beck. In fact, if you would have told me before the game began today, hey, BA, at one point in time, Beck's going to throw what's going to look like a little bit of a risky interception, forcing the ball into coverage, it's going to end up resulting in some points for Kentucky, but the same kind of moxie and attitude that led to that interception is also going to lead to him throwing 4 touchdown passes and being well over 300 yards. You think I wouldn't take that? Of course I would. My guess is most Georgia fans would there as well. So the one thing I don't believe there really is this idea of all good and no bad, that you're going to throw a bunch of touchdowns and make a bunch of big throws down the field. After all, big throws are harder to make. Big throws are made into tighter windows. Big throws they're more difficult to connect on. The completion percentage on a throw deep down the field is just going to be smaller than the completion percentage on a throw that's a little shorter. And so the kind of quarterback that's able to make those big throws is also at times going to put the ball in harm's way a little bit more. It's sort of like, I hate to bring up baseball because right now the Braves don't give us much to talk about there as far as that sport goes. But the idea that for a slugger, a guy that's hitting home runs, he's going to perhaps strike out just a little bit more. I can live with that Beck interception tonight because it came within the rhythm of him really putting the ball into tight windows, showing the kinds of, sort of moments that you want quarterbacks to be able to have, and that's what Carson Beck was able to do tonight. All right, let's see if we can keep it going here. Okay, we got some folks on hold and ready to go. Adrian is next up. Adrian, you're next up here on the Dog Nation Postgame Show tonight. We're live at the UGA bookstore. Adrian, what did you think about these dogs here this evening?
Good evening, BA and the rest of Dog Nation. I am ecstatic. From start to finish, our dogs really came out and showed the world who we are, that we are back-to-back national champions, and we are the number one team in the country. We actually played up to our standard. The defense was a little tentative at the beginning, having problems with the run, but they actually grew into the game and got really aggressive and got after it. So I am proud of our boys, and I am proud to be a Bulldog tonight.
Adrian, that is well said. I am proud of those guys there as well. And you're right. The first couple of plays you saw from Ray Davis, the Kentucky running back, were reminiscent of what Davis had done last week against Florida. And obviously it kind of brings up that thought of, is Georgia going to have these issues again, especially on the outside edge where Peyton Thorne, the quarterback for Auburn, had some success a week ago. But Georgia clearly buttoned that up, nailed that down, and as Adrian said, played in such a way that makes us all proud here tonight. Adrian, that's a really good phone call. Really appreciate that. We'll keep it going. Click the link in our Zoom chats, or I should say on the video chat, Facebook, YouTube, dognation.com. Click the link, be a part of the show. We're going to get Jeff Sintel coming up here in just a moment. In fact, we got Jeff waiting to go. So why don't we get Jeff in? If you're on hold, stay where you are. When we're done with Jeff, we'll run through as many more of these phone calls as we can. But Jeff was down there on the sidelines. He gives a little bit of a different perspective. Jeff, I believe, also had a chance to be a part of a victorious UGA locker room there, too. So Jeff Sintel here live on our Dog Nation postgame show. Appreciate you being here. Give us some insight, your perspective watching the game on the field, first of all. Loud crowd, light show in full effect. What was the vibe down there on the field between the hedges here this evening, Jeff?
Yeah, Brandon, it was cool, and good evening, everybody. I'm sure everybody's happy. Maybe they might be raising a glass after that one, but, Brandon, I really felt Georgia came in here and really clicked on all cylinders. I mean, I kind of said on social media that it looked like I hope the fast starts were enough for everyone else, but it really, I thought the way that they were slicing through Kentucky, it looked like some of the stuff that 2019 LSU was doing. Carson couldn't miss anything. I just actually walked out of the Kentucky post-game press conference, and it was one of those nights, Brandon, where they were like, burn the tape, we got our butts kicked. Like Liam Coleman was like, There's really no other way to describe it. We just got our butts kicked, and they just credited Georgia. It really seems like they were breaking down a Georgia football team that is kind of coming into its own. The quarterback position is evolving, getting better each and every week. And it was so much fun, Brandon. It was like everything everybody wanted to see about Georgia unleashing on somebody and showing them stuff. I'll tell you a good story. Dylan Fairchild, he met the media afterward, and he's kind of coming into his own. He's getting a lot of playing time, Brandon. You'll love this. He's got a ultimate lineman injury. He's got I guess it's kind of a sore or scab that just keeps getting knocked off, or the scab keeps getting ripped off every week. So every week it looks like he's got this old school, hard as nails, tough guy, like bleeder right across the bridge of his nose. And he's like, yeah, it just happens. And it's a cool lineman injury. But he said, man, let me tell you something. This was the Carson Beck we see every day. Kamari Lassiter said the same thing. This is the Carson we see every day. And you guys got to see it kind of fully unleashed for the first time tonight.
No, that's outstanding to be able to hear. And, Jeff, obviously a lot of recruits on hand for this today there as well. From your perspective, what kind of show were they seeing, and how were they reacting to both the environment and the game itself?
Well, I mean, Brandon, first of all, I think they got the cutest family ever, which is David Sanders and his family. He's got 3 younger sisters that basically ruled the Team Sanders. They were fist bumping Harry Dog. They were cheering with the Georgia cheer. I mean, it was like it's like you sit there, and these young ladies were so adorable. The way their brother and their father dotes over them. They were like the first kids of Georgia football recruiting. They were in the front row of the West End Zone. You saw David Sanders there. You saw Alabama commitment Ryan Williams there, #1 receiver in the country, having fun, doing the swag surf. You saw Ellis Robinson and his family back. Ellis told me earlier today that he's actually going to come back for the Missouri game as well. Said it's great to be home, great to be there. You saw Jordan Thomas. You saw Nair Daniels. Lots of players here. We didn't see Juju Lewis today. We did see the #1 linebacker, the junior linebacker, Zayden Walker. It was good to see longtime commitments, Jordan Thomas and Nair Daniels and Brandon. Sheesh. Nair Daniels can almost, his frame, Brandon, you see him, and it looks like his top half won't fit into a stadium seat. But then you see him around the hips and around the legs and around the thighs, and he slims down. He looks like an athlete in his lower half. It's impressive to see Nair Daniels in Sanford Stadium. You kind of saw Jaden Riddell again back in Sanford Stadium again. So there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of good players there. And, man, they were having so much fun watching Georgia just tee it up and let it fly against Kentucky. And it was one of those games where Georgia had a chance to show the country that when it plays like that, it is still as talented, has as many weapons as any team in the land. Brandon had 21 first downs in the first half. They had 77 yards rushing. They were averaging 10 yards per play. And it was kind of a point. You listen to the Kentucky coordinators talk after the game, Brandon, and they were just like, that is a great football team, and we could not hang with a great football team tonight.
Let's do rapid fire here for a couple of minutes on a couple of things here. Brock Bowers' third straight 100-yard game for him. It's amazing. That performance can be obscured by Carson Beck, but deservedly, Beck's going to get a lot of the attention. But right now, there's no other way to say this. Brock Bowers is legitimately in the conversation for best players in all of college football. I believe he is the best. I believe that he's more than just a candidate to be a Heisman finalist. I believe that he should be very much talked about to actually win the award. But it seems like he finds new ways to impress us every week.
Yeah, Brendan, the best take you can put together for that is you can just say your eyes tell you that Brock Bowers is not only a top 10 draft pick, but he's also a Heisman Trophy finalist. But we know that's a stats-driven award, and what needs to happen is for Brock to put about 3 or 4 more of these games together so those stats look like the stats of a Heisman finalist, so it looks like he's one of the top 10 receivers in the country and not just an incredible tight end. Brandon, I almost lost myself when I saw Carson Beck trot out wide, and then you have Brock Bowers lined up as a kind of true quarterback with another running back flanking him right there. Georgia put that look on tape for people to start studying and start worrying about. it was really crazy seeing that. Now we've got Brock taking running back snaps this year, taking quarterback snaps under the center. Those are the sort of highlights that you piece those together, and they get you a downtown athletic club resume. I think one of the quotes of the night from the post-game interviews with the Georgia players, Brandon, is Kendall Milton, who said, Dog fans are going to love this. They might make them want to raise a glass again on this one. He said he felt he was completely healthy tonight. You saw him before the game. He was kind of stretching out that leg, kicking like a rocket. But here's the quote. He said, Brock Bowers is LeBron James. And then he workshopped that for a little bit, talking about, and if you know Kendall Milton being an LA guy, being a Cali guy, when he says the guy's LeBron, that's kind of like the highest level of compliment. But then he said, hold on a second, no, he is LeBron James. And he kind of workshopped that nickname to give it a more Georgia-type feel right there. I mean, clearly Brock Bowers, like you said, man, deserves every accolade.
How much fun was it to see Kendall Milton back and contributing here tonight? You know, the overall rushing total for Georgia north of 170 yards, but the idea that, you know, he's right at 6 yards per carry. Dejon Edwards was at 6 yards per carry. I think you kind of saw that element of the Georgia offense on display tonight there, too. For as good as the passing game was, it's now creating opportunities, at least tonight it did, for that Georgia rushing attack. A healthy Kendall Milton, I think that was a welcome sight for many Georgia fans.
Yeah, when you start adding all those pieces, Brandon, it seems like Georgia has weapons everywhere. When you got Dejon being special, you got Dejon making plays and those extended handoffs in the passing game, and you can add a bruiser, a bully, and Kendall Milton coming at you 230 pounds, 228 pounds up the middle, up the gut, busting tackles. It really gives great diversification, but you see Georgia with what they can do with the quarterback position, Brandon. I know there's probably running through your minds as well as the Dog Nation stats department. I don't remember the last time I've seen a quarterback at Georgia with 300 passing yards in the first half. You start seeing what Carson Beck has done. I think I said this earlier. I think these past two games, I think Carson Beck has clicked up several notches, leveled up a lot in terms, not only in terms of the local perspective from Georgia fans and Dog Nation, but the national perspective. They're starting to look at Georgia a whole lot differently now, and they've got a quarterback capable of doing what Carson Beck did tonight, Brennan. And it wasn't just stats. It wasn't just, hey, we're going to use some scheme-up ways. Brennan, these were a lot of big boy Sunday throws that Carson Beck was making over and over again tonight.
Last thing for you very quick here, Jeff. You wrote about him this week, and tonight he added 3 more field goals. Some shaky play earlier in this season, but by my count, it's at least 5 straight now that Woodring has hit. 2 last week, 3 this week. It certainly seems like he perhaps is right now settling into his role as Georgia's kicker.
Yeah, he's going to end that worry debate pretty quickly. I know we have some ribbing among the Dog Nation team because I've told our guys, I've told our staff that Peyton's going to be just fine. He's going to make the Dogs really proud, and you can keep the receipts up for me on that one. And I think that young man, kind of like Carson Beck, man, he's like a rocket taking off right now for Georgia. And I get another thing, Brandon, that really impressed me tonight. Is we keep hearing this phrase. I kind of find myself coming to this phrase a lot in my thoughts here. But you have a lot of players leveling up. You have a lot of players evolving. And another one for me is Ra Thomas. Brandon, how quickly has the narrative changed? And now we've got 2 or 3 games now of evidence where it seems like when everybody thought Dominic Lovett would be that unstoppable force along with Ladd McConkey. But now it really seems like Ra Thomas is going to be a major problem when you see him taking those deep shots, when you see him beating coverage, getting separation, and extending for the ball. And then, man, I hope they play that touchdown catch on SEC Nation or College Football Final. Hope they play that about 16 times because it's worth it every replay.
Jeff, great stuff. Appreciate you being here. We'll look forward to reading, obviously, a lot of your thoughts about this game and how recruits react to this throughout the week at DogNation.com. Of course, seeing some great photos there, too. Thanks for being here as part of our Dog Nation postgame show. Great insight from that victorious Georgia locker room, so to speak, moments ago, and getting a chance to hear from those Georgia players. We appreciate your time here this evening.
Yeah, man. Have a great night, and have a great show, buddy.
That's Jeff Sintel right there. Really, really good stuff as part of our Dog Nation post-game show. And speaking of good stuff there as well, how about our friends at Cercheros? When you're getting ready for a great game day spread, Cercheros is really the name to know for that when you want the freshest mechs available and all the different catering options they have for you, such as the burrito party platter, the taco and fajito bars, and freshly grilled meats, guac, queso, of course, all your favorite fresh toppings there as well. That is what Cercheros is all about. Plus, there are 25 locations all throughout the state of Georgia, including right here in Athens, Georgia, where we are tonight. So make sure you check out Cercheros.com for more on that. That is Cercheros.com for more on that. And you can make a game day order. You can also dine in if you want to, take out. But if you want that big catering meal, that great party platter and all the burrito platter that goes along with that, our friends at Cercheros have you covered on all of that. All right, we got a couple of minutes left. We're going to try to squeeze through a handful of callers here before we get ready to say goodbye. What a great time we've had here at the UGA bookstore. Of course, I'm wearing the Peter Millar shirt tonight from the UGA bookstore, a part of my game day wardrobe, because all of my game day attire comes from right here at the UGA bookstore. Peter Millar, the Nike Coaches Gear, 47 brand, Johnny O, Vineyard Vines, Tommy Bahama, all of those great famous makers, all good-looking UGA apparel. You get it here at the UGA bookstore. JC, you're next up. JC, a lot of Georgia fans in a good mood tonight. What did you think about this football game?
How you doing tonight? Long time not seeing you. Hey, we had a great game. The team played well tonight. We came together. Like you said earlier, we did have that one mistake by Beck, but overall, I think the team played well. So hopefully, we can carry this on to Vanderbilt and keep this thing going.
I love it, JC. Appreciate you being here. Vanderbilt next week on the road, a team that lost to Florida here today, and we joked about this a little earlier, but imagine being Florida right now. The team that beat you last week, Kentucky, you just saw Georgia hang 50 on here today. I think if you listen very carefully, you can hear the collective sound of a bunch of Gators trying to cancel their reservations in Jacksonville all right now at the same time. I believe if you listen closely, you might be able to hear that. And you're right. For Georgia, I think the key is taking what you had tonight, those 4 quarters of full momentum, right? Just from the word go, Georgia was playing at a different level. Now kind of finding that for the next few games there as well. I think that's an important thing for Georgia to kind of maintain this. Obviously, don't think much of Vanderbilt right now, but going back on the road again, early 11 a.m. local time start, playing with the same edge next week that you had this week. Clearly for Georgia, that's going to be important. Gary Gilbreath, you're next up here on the Dog Nation postgame show. We're live at the UGA bookstore. Gary, how about them dogs here tonight?
Hey, B.A., this is my first time calling, but I watch the show all the time.
Thank you, Gary.
I love them dogs. We had a complete game tonight.
Yes, sir.
And about time. Do you think that this will score some points for Bobo with the fans?
I think that's a really good question, Gary, and I appreciate you joining us. And I certainly hope that it does, because I think, and we've had some folks even say this tonight, of all of the bouquets that you throw out for today like this, of all the congratulations that you give out, as you point out, rightly so, Mike Bobo is one of those guys who deserves that, because you don't have Carson Beck going out and putting up the big numbers that he does if you don't have a great game plan from Mike Bobo. And with Mark Stoops in Kentucky, as we said Friday on Dog Nation Daily, you don't have a Kentucky defense like that planning on keying and stopping Bowers, and then yet you still find a way to have the success that he's able to have. You don't get the ball to Bowers unless the way they did tonight, unless that you're also having a great game plan from a guy like Mike Bobo. That's what Georgia had tonight. So I do think Bobo deserves a lot of the credit for that. And I hope that Georgia fans agree with you on that, and I'm guessing that they probably are going to, because that was certainly a very, very big night. A little bit of time for a couple more callers. Then we're going to get ready to wrap things up here as Georgia enjoys a dominant win at the hands of the Kentucky Wildcats. And if you're Kentucky, the thing that I think you're forced to conclude here is you knew at some point in time this was going to happen. At some point in time there was going to be the big Georgia performance. It just happened tonight to come with Kentucky kind of in the way of that. It was bound to happen for somebody, and tonight it was on the side there of the Kentucky Wildcats, who were forced to kind of take that. All right, let's do this while we have a moment. We'll see if we can squeeze in a call or two before we get out of here. Let's take some time to go cruise around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. And I believe the number one headline from the SEC this evening is going to end up being the win for Alabama on the road at Texas A&M. And some of the issue that a lot of folks are going to have with that game, and you perhaps have already heard this, some pretty, whatever the opposite of bold is, I guess I don't want to say it out loud, but whatever the opposite of bold is, it seems like Jimbo Fisher today really kind of betrayed his team, betrayed his fans. On a 4th and 1, kind of on the Alabama side of the field, Fisher decides to punt. After the game, said if it was less than a yard, they probably would have gone for it. It's the kind of thing that seemed to take the air out of the balloon completely for A&M. Alabama scores the go-ahead touchdown, was able to maintain that lead for the rest of the game. A big day for Jermaine Burton, kind of a career day for him, both at Alabama and I believe for his career overall. He was darn near 200 yards receiving the game, had a couple of touchdowns. And so for Alabama, who's now won in the SEC play, 3 straight to begin SEC play, shaking off the loss to Texas, which, by the way, lost to Oklahoma today, kind of shaking off the weirdness of benching Jalen Milroe for the South Florida game. It seems like Alabama has figured out a good bit. Nick Saban had some interesting comments at the end of this game that he's probably never been more a part of I'm paraphrasing the quote, never been more a part of a mistake-laden game for a team of his that actually won. That's what his sort of assessment of the win against Texas A&M was. But nonetheless, it certainly appears that Alabama's kind of righted things, for at least right now, in the driver's seat for the SEC West. So for Georgia fans who are kind of playing the comparison game, all the more important that Georgia was also able to get the dominant win against Kentucky, because now maybe you don't quite have to hear as much of that Alabama talk as you would be hearing if Georgia somehow won close, if Georgia somehow won in the kind of less than impressive fashion that it's been winning some of these games with. If that were to have been the case here tonight, there'd be a lot more to be said about Alabama. But as it stands right now, Georgia doesn't have to hear a lot of that. But you do get the impression that we could be building towards another showdown between Georgia and Alabama in the SEC championship. And perhaps the stakes of this one could be much higher than they were the last time these two teams played in an SEC championship in 2021, because that year it was largely thought that you're perhaps playing for 2 playoff spots. Ultimately, both those teams did make the playoff. Perhaps this year just playing for the 1, depending on how the rest of the country kind of shakes out. The other fun game that was certainly a thriller was Oklahoma's win against Texas, kind of final game these two teams will play against each other before joining the SEC next year, and they're at the State Fair in Texas. It was truly an amazing thing to see, and that is Cruise Around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. And, of course, the Dog Nation Cruise coming up for you April of 2024, leaving out of Port Canaveral, going to Nassau in the Bahamas, going to Perfect Day Coco Cay. And, by the way, for 2024, Perfect Day Coco Cay, unlike anything that it's ever been before, adding the brand new Hideaway Beach, the special adults-only enclave that's going to make Perfect Day Coco Cay so much more fun. And I'll tell you this there as well. I've been telling you, if you've watched Dog Nation Daily or listened to Dog Nation Daily, I've been really, really hoping to perhaps be a part of one of those early sailings on Icon of the Seas, the brand new ships that's debuting in January. A little bit of chatter out there that may be happening. So we'll see. I'll give you more confirmation on that when I have details to confirm. But there may be some chatter out there about that right now. That's a fun thing to think about. By the way, Jessica Slater, great travel agent. She's put a website together, royaldogs.com. You want to find out more about the Dog Nation Cruise, Jessica Slater will let you do that there, royaldogs.com for more on that. You can also email her, jslater@dreamvacations.com. That's jslater@dreamvacations.com. You can give her a call there as well on the number you perhaps see on your screen. All right, let's squeeze in some final calls. We're going to wrap things up because it's, I'm guessing, pretty late here on a Saturday night. Scott Green, you're next up. Dog Nation Postgame Show. We're live here at the UGA Bookstore. Scott, how about them dogs and a big win tonight?
How about them dogs, Brandon? One quick update I wanted to give you. Georgia Tech just went up on Miami with 2 seconds left. It's 23-20.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yep. They ended up getting a fumble. They reviewed it to no end and ended up giving it to Tech, and somehow they found a way to drive it down the field. 2 things I just wanted to reiterate for people is when Georgia establishes a run, it's a baseline for a lot of the play action. And I truly struggle to find a team that is better after establishing the run, after utilizing play action than Georgia. It's just a ruthless, vicious, offensive efficiency attack that you saw tonight. And that's really been the one piece that's missing. Now, the defense still has some growing to do. A lot of the edge presence, the overflow from the linebackers, guys got to get their eye discipline down, the run fits down. But again, this is a team that is going to get better week to week. And it's something that, for whatever reason, our fans like to rush to, the gloom and doom. But a game like this, I hope, kind of satiates that, because Beck's been this close. I mean, the margin's been just there, but not quite. And once that run game established, it frees up so much. And I'm glad Ra had a kind of a coming out party. I'm glad that Georgia was able to make a statement against a ranked opponent. I mean, there's just a lot of positives to take away. Obviously, Vanderbilt is going to be another game to kind of grow on, to learn, get more rotation in. Very, very needed bye week. But, man, I cannot be prouder of the response after coming out of Jordan-Hare in a close game and in a dogfight where everything's going wrong, and you still somehow, some way walk out and then answer with a game like this.
Scott, I believe it's a great point. I appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much for being a part of our Dog Nation postgame show here tonight. And it was an emphatic answer after, moments against Auburn that, perhaps Georgia fans would like to have worked out differently. But the truth is, what we were saying, even after those games, the game against Auburn, the game against South Carolina, was Georgia was continuing to find a way to win, keeping itself in the conversation that it needed to be a part of. And now I think after tonight's game, probably asserting itself in that discussion much more, because of the way it does answer on defense, the way that it does answer on offense, figuring out a way to kind of put it together on both sides of the ball there. That's incredible. Something else that deserves a lot of credit, I don't know if we've talked about this enough here tonight, was the role that Georgia fans played in this game. We did see a handful of false starts once again for Kentucky. That's a big part of this. Clearly, this was the kind of tough environment for the Wildcats where any hope they had of establishing any momentum, it just simply was not going to be able to happen because of the work that the Georgia fans were able to do. And with that in mind, we may let Scott be our final word here. Why don't we do this? We have some Kirby Smart, but the truth is it's getting a little late here on this. Why don't we go ahead and let you go to the Dog Nation YouTube page if you want to hear Kirby Smart. We're kind of moving past that hour mark. We probably need to wrap things up here a little bit. It is, after all, late for folks. From that standpoint, why don't we let you go to the Dog Nation YouTube page if you want to see the Kirby Smart press conference in its entirety. And if you're on hold, we didn't get to you, hopefully you haven't been waiting too long there on that. We'll try to squeeze in more maybe next time. We are late here for right now. So why don't we go ahead and get ready to wrap up here for tonight. Georgia does get dominant win over Kentucky. Obviously, Dog Nation's got game day coverage for you throughout the rest of the night there online at dognation.com. You want to see all the press conference stuff, that's available for you. Dog Nation YouTube page, probably the best place for you to go on that. I'll see you Monday morning for Dog Nation Daily, live, back in studio, reacting to all of this. Big win for Georgia tonight, getting it done against the Kentucky Wildcats. Great conversation tonight for those who joined us live, for those who joined us via all the video chats there as well. Terrific stuff. Really appreciate that. And we will see you back here next time. Saturday, it'll be in Nashville on the field, but then after that, in a couple of weeks, right here on the Dog Nation post-game show, back here at the UGA bookstore. Hard to believe, just 2 home games left for these Dogs. An amazingly fast season, as it always is, but one in which Georgia remains on top as the #1 team in the country. So thanks for being here on our Dog Nation post-game show. We will see you again next time.